Hi, and in this video, I'm going to share 5 reasons men are afraid to love you and how to overcome them, how to invite them in. And this is going to be a really interesting video. This is going to be hopefully a very vulnerable video. I don't even know what I'm going to share, but I've committed to sharing things from my own life to help iron these home, because so many women that I work with, they take it very personally when a man, when they're not able to get a man to open his heart to them the way that they want, or men aren't approaching them, or they're just not getting the results that they want. They're not getting the sort of vulnerability that they want from the masculine. And I'm here to share with you 100% honestly that so often the reason that men are not giving you what they want, what you want emotionally, is that they are afraid. They are terrified for so many reasons. And so I'm going to share those with you in just a second. But before I do, take a second, hit that little subscribe button. It helps get this content out to more people. And I want this work to reach as many humans as possible, right? And be sure to click that link in the comments and caption, because I have created just for you some great training that's going to make a huge difference in your connections and relationships with men. I take this work very seriously, and I want to give you every resource to be the best version of yourself and have the best relationships that you possibly can. So let's dive into this, right? Men have a lot of fear, a lot of fear around love in a lot of different areas. And one of the first ways that I want to show this to you is we are afraid. Men are afraid to approach you often because we are very afraid of rejection. We are very insecure about being judged and rejected if we are to approach you. And think about it. Men have a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on men to be the aggressor, to be the person that's the leader and the approacher and everything. And it puts a lot of pressure on us. And it's wild. Like, it's wild how much anxiety there is that goes along with that. For all men, right? At all shapes and sizes and ages and colors and everything, right? I know throughout a lot of my life, when I would see a woman at a bar or at a party that I was attracted to, I would have this brief moment of excitement and then immediately this sense of dread and panic, because I knew if it was going to happen, it was going to be up to me to approach her. And as soon as that switch flipped in my head, I would have a ton of anxiety would come up. All my insecurities would bubble up. And oh my gosh, well, she's with people. What if she says no? What if I go up to her and it's just really awkward? And it's just all these like stories start to play out in your head about how this might go, right? And most of the time, the stories are not good stories, you know? And so men, trust me, like, men are talking themselves out a lot of times of talking to you if they see you at a party. So ladies, do not take it personally if a guy doesn't necessarily approach you, right? And recognize that it doesn't matter how attractive they are, it doesn't matter what they look like or where they're from or whatever. Most men have insecurities and approach anxiety. And so if you want a man to approach you, as I've said to so many clients and students, throw us a freaking bone here. Throw us a bone. Let us know that you're interested. You can use nonverbal communication to do that very easily. Just a brief moment of eye contact, 2 to 3 seconds of eye contact and a smile lets us know, I see you seeing me and I like it. That is an incredibly powerful invitation that helps a man work through his approach anxiety and then actually approach you, right? Which is what you want. So recognize you are the conductor, right? You can invite a man in non-verbally through your gestures, right? You are the conductor of the symphony of love, right? And another reason we are afraid to approach you is that we assume that you're taken. We assume that you're in a relationship, especially if you are a beautiful woman, especially if we find you really attractive. One of the biggest stories after we work through the whole, oh my gosh, what if she says no story is, well, oh, she's so beautiful, she must be taken. She must be in a relationship, she's not available, whatever else. And so this can either be just a story that we've created to talk ourselves out of approaching you, or it can be because you don't seem open, right? You're not making eye contact with anybody. You're just focusing on your friends. Maybe you're standing next to a male friend of yours who you think is your wingman, but instead he's actually your guy repellent because everybody thinks that he's your boyfriend, okay? So it's very important that if you're going to a social situation and you want a man to approach you, that you put yourself in a position and you make yourself available to be approached. You demonstrate that you're open to connection, right? You're not mobbed by other guys and people, and that you're making a conscious invitation for the people that you're attracted to approach you. It's one of the most powerful ways to be magnetic is through nonverbal communication. So don't let these stories, these fears that we've got disqualify you from creating, fostering the connection that you really want, okay? Now, another major way that we're afraid to love you is in commitment, right? A lot of times men are afraid to commit, like maybe we're dating in the early stages, but we're afraid to commit to you because we're afraid of letting you down. We're afraid of disappointing you in relationship. Men are not always, we create stories about ourselves that we are not always great at commitment. I know for me, a lot of times in relationship in the past, I would dread having the talk, right? Back in my 20s, especially, because I knew that I hadn't had a relationship maybe longer than 6 months, and then inevitably I was the one that had to break up with my partner because I wasn't good at sharing boundaries. I wasn't good at expressing my boundaries or what I wanted, and because I wasn't good at confrontation or having confrontive conversations, I let relationships get way off track, and then I would just end up breaking up and walking away from the person. So because of that, I created this, equation between commitment and pain and heartbreak, and that I always ended up hurting somebody. So a lot of times I would try to keep things casual, not because I wanted to stay casual with everybody, but because I felt that if it got committed, that it was one step closer to like a painful situation, that I was going to have to end the relationship. And I didn't like that. I really didn't like hurting people, And so that's a big reason. That's a big reason that a man might be afraid to commit is not because he doesn't care about you, because he's afraid of disappointing you. He's afraid of letting you down. So if you want to invite a man that you're dating, you're connecting with, to commit to you, right? Just make him feel safe. Invite him to commitment and sort of reinforce for him that you want a commitment. And just because you guys are getting into maybe the next level of relationship or you're not seeing other people, it doesn't mean that you're trying to marry him right away. It doesn't mean that you're trying to force him into something. You want to let him know that you're open to commitment and that you're open to being in a container with somebody just because you love spending time with them, not because you're doing it from a place of fear or insecurity, right? That's the sort of energy that you want to bring a man into commitment to help him feel safe in taking things to that next level and not having him read a bunch into it that just because you've committed to him that it means that you guys you have to get married or that it's this huge scary thing, right? Commitment can be fun and it can be beautiful and it can be expansive. And sometimes you have to help a man understand that that's what it can be. That doesn't have to be some fearful, traumatizing thing. Right? Now, another reason, the fourth reason that we are afraid a lot of times of committing or being in a deeper relationship with you is because we don't feel ready. We don't feel ready for a relationship. And this speaks to the fact that a lot of times men have these rules, right? Or these beliefs that they've got in their head that we can't be in a relationship until we can't be in a committed, a deep relationship until we have X amount of money, right? Until we own a house, until we've got our stuff together. Got our junk in order, got our house and our affairs in order, right? And that comes from perfectionism. That comes from beliefs that we inherited from our parents. And a lot of times it's a form of procrastination and sort of pushing away a relationship, right? That we need things to be perfect before we're ready. Okay, so to overcome that and I know in my own life, right, the way that this showed up was that when I didn't have a lot of money or when I wasn't really stable and I was and I was moving a lot or my life was just in flux, I would be very resistant to getting into a relationship with somebody because I wasn't able to create and provide that stability for them. Which is reasonable, in a way, but oftentimes it's just a way that men sabotage and talk themselves out of commitment when maybe being in a relationship would be really healthy and really good for them. So how do you address that? How do you address that, right? Well, if a man is, you can tell that he's sort of resisting commitment or he's resisting relationship with you because he feels like he's not ready, like he's not enough. He's not enough yet. He's not far enough along in his business or in his personal life or whatever, right? You can vulnerably communicate to him that you love him, that you care about him, that you appreciate him just the way that he is, right where he's at right now, that he is enough. And if you can vulnerably communicate that to him and let him know and help him feel that he is exactly who you want to be with right now, right meow, and that you don't need anything more from him, that you don't need him to have reached X or Y level, that can help him start to overcome that false belief that he's not worthy of being in a relationship until he's reached this landmark or this metric or this number, So it's another opportunity for you to really be an emotional sanctuary for the masculine and to invite him into accepting himself and really stepping into a deeper belief that he's worthy of being in a loving relationship, okay? And beyond that, the fifth and final, and one of the biggest reasons why men are afraid of loving you is because we have so much past trauma around love. And this can look so many different ways. Maybe we witnessed an abusive relationship between our parents. I have a lot of friends whose parents had very messy divorces, and I'm very grateful that I didn't have that, but I had a lot of friends, a lot of guy friends of mine whose parents had very messy divorces, and because of that, they had a very fearful relationship around commitment, and they would go decades without getting into a significant long-term relationship because of all the horror and the drama that they saw from their divorced parents, right? Or maybe they didn't have necessarily a super traumatic childhood experience with a relationship, but they had one of their first great loves maybe was incredibly traumatic. I know in my life, my first two loves, the first two women that I fell in love with, and I'm not going to get into the details of the story, but I was 18 and 19 years old when I fell madly in love with these two women. They broke my heart, and honestly, I set myself up for it, right? Because the first one was in a relationship, and I was her friend, and I was in love with her, so I set myself up for that. And then the second one, it was also a very dysfunctional container where she also had a boyfriend. You see a pattern that I found myself in the early stages of my life. I got myself into sort of like friendly situationships with women that were not physically available because they were with somebody else, and that set me up for a lot of heartbreak. And after those first two heartbreaks that I experienced, I emotionally shut down for like a decade. Whatever that part of me that was able to love and be open to women, I just lost the ability to fall in love. I didn't know how to turn it back on. And I went like my whole 20s, just sort of like dating and going through relationships, but never really fully emotionally investing in any of my partners and just feeling like I was broken and I didn't know how to fix it, right? Or how to work through it. It wasn't until I did a lot of really deep inner work and did a lot of trauma work through my personal development work that I've done in my 30s that I was able to start becoming emotionally available again. And it's weird because guys are not necessarily the most emotionally intelligent beings, right? We don't spend a lot of time thinking and connecting with our feelings. We don't always know why we're feeling or not feeling certain things, So just recognize and have compassion for the fact that maybe the reason that a man isn't able to emotionally invest in you isn't because he doesn't want to, but it's maybe because he just doesn't know how, or he feels like he can't because he's been hurt so badly by, a past lover or by his relationship between his parents or his relationship with his mother. A lot of times, like mama trauma is a real thing, and it can cause some lasting blocks for men in relationship, that they were hurt by their mother or they had a toxic relationship with their mother. So just know that, and for men that have gone through that, right, that are blocked from loving you because of trauma, again, what does it look like? The question to ask yourself is, what does it look like for you to be his emotional sanctuary? What does it look like for you to cultivate a space of safety, right? It's your responsibility, right, as the feminine, to be the emotional and communicative conductor of the relationship. So how can you invite him to be vulnerable and start speaking into, what his blocks are around loving you? And this is a very powerful process called holding space, where you ask him, or maybe you start sharing with him, hey, I'm developing deeper feelings from you. You lead with vulnerability, right? I'm starting to experience deeper feelings for you, and I'm curious where you're at emotionally in this relationship or in this container. I know it's a big, scary question, right? But if you're able to ask him that and then also let him know, and just so you know, like, I want you to be 100%, vulnerable with me. I want you to share with me what's in your heart, and just know that, like, I'm not going to take it personally if you're not where I'm at. Okay? Like, let him know that. Reinforce for him that you're not going to retaliate against him if he gives you an answer that's not what you want to hear. Does that make sense? Because a lot of times men are afraid of being vulnerable. We're afraid of sharing what's in our heart if it's something that we know you don't want to hear, because we've been punished in the past by a woman saying, oh no, tell me exactly what's going on with you. And then you share, and then the woman's like, that's not what and they ambush you. So we have a lot of fear a lot of times around vulnerability. So if you can reinforce to a man, hey, I really want to hear what you have to say, and then you hold space for him, which means you listen to him, you listen to his vulnerable share without judgment, right? And you allow him to fully speak his truth, that can begin the healing process. And that can be a transformational experience for a man. So know that you have that. You have that superpower. And all 5 of these reasons why men are afraid to love you are actually opportunities for you to step into a deeper role as a healer and as a cultivator of safe space, right? And to invite the masculine into deep vulnerability and to let go of these fears. Because at the end of the day, right, we all want the same things. We all want love, connection, support, understanding. We all want that same stuff. But just like how you have trauma and you have your own fear around connecting with men, trust me, men have we have our own wounds and our own trauma that a lot of times we're way less proactive and way less conscious of them, and we're managing them a lot less than y'all are as women. So you have the opportunity to be the catalyst for that healing and that growth for us. So I hope you take advantage of that and you recognize and you're able to find compassion and empathy for the masculine from what I've shared with you today. This was an interesting video for me to do, because it was something that I've wanted to talk about for a long time, but I've been scared of how it was going to be received. And you know what? I'm glad I did it. It felt really good to share this stuff with you. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to comment down below, hit that little subscribe button, and don't forget to click that link in the comments and caption. I have created an awesome video, an awesome training that's going to make a huge difference in your connections and relationships with men. And be sure to watch this next video. This is one of my most popular videos, and it's going to be a greater window into the male mind. This is 10 signs that a man is emotionally investing in you. These are 10 foolproof signs that will help you understand that a man has worked through his fear, right, of loving you, and has stepped into a space where he is emotionally investing in you and he's ready to commit to you, so it is safe for you to give your heart to him. I hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Number 1 is they embrace your flaws with open arms and a smile. And this reminds me of a really great quote, that we come to love not by finding a perfect person, but by learning to see an imperfect person perfectly.